if you're a defense now, you're looking to say, you know what, without Isaiah Pacheco, we can double team Rashee Rice inside, outside, because he likes to run those crossing routes. And we can focus on Travis Kelce and kind of blend between the two and say, challenge us with somebody else. That's what I would think that the Atlanta Falcons is probably thinking of as well.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
All right, here we go. Welcome to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. I'm your guy, Shawn Barber, 10-year NFL vet, and man, you know what? Podcast extravaganzo. We're going to always start it the right way, man. Listen, you see the bottom of the screen. We got a title sponsor, the McGinnis Group. The McGinnis Group does an amazing job. And yes, I work for the McGinnis Group, and now we specialize in employee benefits, health insurance for companies, retirement, financial services, life insurance, and long-term care. We would love the opportunity to review your company's current plan and learn more about your game plan for the game of life. And together, everyone achieves more. And that is something we believe in at the McGinnis Group, TEAM. Be a part of the McGinnis, the MGI team. So reach out to Scotty, Sonny, or Matt McGinnis and find out how we can overlook some of your current policies and become a client of the McGinnis Group. With that said, the bills are paid. It's time to put week 2 to bed. I got one of my favorite guys, Danan Hughes, one of the color commentators, or the color commentator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been doing a great job for years now. Calling the games. He also calls Iowa games. He also is a great baseball coach. He's a dual sport athlete. He's a pride of the Hawkeye Nation. There's a list of accolades I can put behind Danan's name, but he's a former Chiefs great wide receiver, special teams. He knows what it means to be the tip of the spear when it comes to special teams. Danan Hughes is our guest this week as we go into the process. So, Dana, listen, I'm going to break down how the show goes. The process, I know you was on last year.
Yeah.
We tweaked it a little bit. First segment, we're going to talk about last week, pros and cons, what we saw out there on the field.
Okay.
And then week 2, we're going to talk about ingredients for success.
Okay.
We do have a sponsor for the second segment, Red Door Grill. Love the food, love to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Red Door Grill, we're going to break down segment 2.
Best meatloaf in town.
Best meatloaf in town. And then segment 3, obviously, we're going to prepare ourselves for the Chiefs as they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons. So segment 1, let's start it off the right way. What is some of your overarching thoughts about the Kansas City Chiefs and how they took care of the Bengals coming into Arrowhead Stadium?
So, Barbershop, first I want to say thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invite. It's always good to be chopping it up with you. And this has been a special window of time to be a Chiefs fan. And for me to specifically be in the booth, I'm starting my 5th season in the booth with Mitch Holthus as part of the Chiefs Radio Network. So it's been a blessing. You know, I'm spoiled. And hopefully I still got a bunch of fingers that can use some more rings. So I'm hoping that we continue along this path. But when you talk about this Chiefs team, and specifically to your question, last week was what I expected. I did not expect the blowout just because we saw the Cincinnati Bengals stumble in week 1 against the New England Patriots. I felt like they were still a good football team. They have been known to be slow starters, which I don't know how they go through their OTAs or their off season or their preseason, that consistently they start seasons 0-2. I think they've done it 5 of the 6 years that Zach Taylor's been there. But it's fortunate for us. Like, we are a team, and you've been around this league a long time. And for me, there are teams in this league that know how to win and figure out ways to win. And there are teams in this league that don't know how to win and figure out ways to lose. And, you know, you think about the Brendan Staley's and the Chargers over the past few years, and he's not there anymore. But they were a team that figured out ways to lose at the end of games. And we are a team that figure out ways to win. It may not be pretty, but it's definitely a W. And an ugly win is better than a pretty loss anytime, right? As far as positives and takeaways from the game, I felt like, I'll start with the negatives. Obviously, the baptisms of the rookies, Kingsley, Suma, Taia. and Xavier Worthy. I thought two guys that had some growing pains in that game. They're necessary steps. I'm hoping that they will go back to Kingsley and not just default to Wanye for this next game. I feel like if you felt throughout OTAs, mini camps, training camp, preseason that Kingsley was the guy that won the job, I'd hate to think that just because of one performance against one of the better pass rushers in the NFL and Trey Hendrickson, that you would go away from him. It's not an indictment on Wanye Morris, but I feel like if Kingsley was the guy, you give him an opportunity, have him, like you did, take some time away from the game in the fourth quarter to see how things unfold, coach him up all week, and throw him back in the fire. Xavier Worthy, a great interception by Cam Taylor-Britt, but there's a learning experience there as well for him that he's got to get stronger. He's got to know when he's got to become a defensive back if a ball is not thrown perfectly to him and there's an opportunity for a defensive back to get an interception. We were taught as receivers, you immediately become a defensive back and we will gladly take an offensive pass interference because you ripped the helmet off of the guy so he did not intercept the ball versus allowing him to get an interception. That's a learning opportunity for Xavier Worthy. So those are my negatives and takeaways. The giveaway takeaway definitely is an issue for us, giving away the ball like we did. We don't want to go down that same path like we did last year, ending the season minus 11, the giveaway takeaway. Normally that does not equate to a playoff team, never mind a Super Bowl team. Positives, the grit and determination of figuring out ways to win football games when you're not playing your best football. We've become accustomed to seeing that here in Kansas City. We've become accustomed to expecting it. Once you knew and saw that Shamari Connor got that sack and they had to punt the ball away, I think everyone in that stadium and in the Chiefs' kingdom took a deep breath and exhaled and knew that we had an opportunity to win, and we were likely going to win that football game. So that grit and determination, to me, excels past the X's and O's that equate to wins for other organizations.
Well, I'm going to break it back down to what you just said, man. You talked about the grit, and one thing I heard when I had a chance to come down and you might not know this, but Danan has actually been inducted into the Missouri Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
And I had a chance to go and be there when he was inducted. And one of the things he said, and I won't forget it, he said, HWPO, hard work pays off.
Yes, sir.
So when he talks about the grit these guys have, he talks about what I look at it as the GPS, right? He talks about the grind, the perseverance, and then the sacrifice. Putting those things together will always lead you to being successful. He also talked about takeaways. And there's a turnover battle in my mind as a defender. Always worried about maybe there should be two different stats. One should be like a turnover where we gave it away.
Yeah.
Throwing the ball just carelessly.
Yep.
And the other one should be a takeaway where the defense ripped it out, punched it out.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody made an outstanding play on the ball to really take the ball away. It wasn't really given to us over defense. So takeaways versus turnovers. And then you talked about, this show is called The Process for a reason. So in anybody's story, I know in my story, there's many steps that led to my success. If you wanted to call a 10-year NFL career success, I had to get cut by the Commanders. I had to be cut by the Eagles. I had to get cut by the Chiefs. Then I got cut by the Eagles again. Mm-hmm. And then finally, after my 10th year, I was told by the Texans, there is no place for you in the NFL no more. Mm. So that's a lot of failure, a lot of career-ending contracts that I had to continue to go back and look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, am I willing to put it back all on the line and build and use that failure as a stepping stone? As something that just continue to elevate your commitment to your craft and how hard you're willing to work to continue that career. Yeah. And so for these young guys, I'm not going to even try to pronounce the guy from BYU's name. He did an excellent job. But that rookie left tackle, if he accepts the temporary setback of not being a starter and go back and really detail his work, because we know he has some of the best coaches in the world. We call it Coach Andy Heck, Andy Reid, Matt Nagy. There's so much brain, so much intellectual information and assets in that building when it comes to getting it right. Yeah. He's not the first. Yeah. He's not the first guy. When you talk about those, that Cincinnati guy coming off the edge, there's a few guys. There's some game records. There's some guys, J.J. Watts, T.J. Watts.
Crosby, we'll see in a few weeks.
Michael Parsons. I mean, there's a number of guys. I mean, we go to Atlanta, Matt Judon, right? There's going to be some guys that can equally come off the edge the way he did, but I don't know if we're going to see anybody that consistent.
Yeah,
he kind of smelled a little bit of blood in the water. He saw that there was going to be a little bit of inconsistency there, and he just really took advantage of us, definitely during that second half. So, looking at the failure and how that turns into success, I think but at the end of the day, like Dana said, there's no such thing as a bad victory in the NFL. These victories are all going to be tough to come by. The Chiefs being the back-to-back Super Bowl champions and now going for a three-peat are going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
And so with that, I want to look at some things. Overall, we look at week 2. There's some things that when I look at, there's some highlights and some surprises I want to talk to you about. I'm just going to mention the game, and you tell me, obviously, the highlight and surprise is going to be some of these teams were 6, 7, maybe almost double-digit underdogs going into the week, and somehow they found a way to win. So the Saints over the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, the Saints is the number 1 team as far as points scored. So this offense has kind of come from nowhere. Derek Carr has been able to connect with Shaheed and Olave.
Yeah.
They found Alvin Kamara 4 touchdowns. So maybe I'll mention all the games and you tell me which one you was most surprised by. So I had the Saints over Dallas, Vikings over 49ers, Falcons over Eagles, and then the hated Raiders, obviously, finding a way to beat the Rams.
Yeah. The
Ravens, yeah.
So, man, that's a tough list to kind of identify which one jumps out. So just saying a quick little note on each one. I was very surprised. I was eliminated in several survivor pools.
Yes.
The Ravens losing at home against the Raiders. Was not expecting that. Sam Darnold taking over and getting the starts based on what we saw from him early in his career. And then in Carolina to see that he can orchestrate that offense from Minnesota to a win against the San Francisco 49ers. That's a huge surprise. The Falcons, the way they came back, I feel like it was a game lost by the Eagles, not necessarily won by the Falcons. And that's not any disrespect, but if
we can be disrespectful
99 out of 100 times, Saquon Barkley catches that pass and he gets the first down. Let me say, not a touchdown.
And even before that, they had him offsides.
Yeah.
On that third down call where they hard counted, the defensive lineman came across, but the offense didn't react. They allowed him to go back, and they had to call timeout. So, they actually had the first down based on
the lost the game.
They lost the game by not being prepared.
Yeah, so I think there was definitely, I would say now, because we have the Saints coming in a few weeks, the fact that what's scary about the Saints is how many points they're putting up. It's one thing we knew, when you got Cam Jordan, you got the Honey Badger, you got a solid defense down there in the Bayou, that's kind of been par for the course for them. But for them to now have transitioned their offense into a juggernaut that's putting up 40-plus points against the Dallas Cowboys, to me, if I had to pick one game that really jumped out, it's that one. Because I feel like if that's a win that they win 28-21 or 28-20, 27-17, I think, we could digest it. But then to jump out on them, the last I looked, it was 41-19. I know they scored late, etc. But the way they were able to put, and I want to say they've had the ball, they scored 15 straight possessions in the NFL. And it's not Patrick Mahomes and it's not, Josh Allen. To have Derek Carr, who would associate those two numbers together, but that's the one that probably jumps out to me.
It just seems like that team is so balanced when it comes to being able to use Alvin Kamara, use Jamal Williams, and then the Olave, obviously a sprinkle of T. Hill, right?
Yeah.
The Hill guy, he still comes in as Taysom is that mixed bag. So it's like they have so many different ways of punching. Right? They punch in the gut, punch in the chest, punch you with a hook, then hit you with a straight, and then an uppercut.
Yeah.
So they got a whole bag of tricks they're using to keep you off balance on defense.
Yeah.
And they it's not like they're doing it against no pushover.
Yeah.
Dallas definitely showed everybody in week 1, the Dallas Cowboys can get after you. They can go play some football. But they did. They got punched in the mouth.
They got pushed around, too. They invested what you saw this year, definitely, and maybe even a little last year, is that they have opted to try to go with speed on defense versus size and girth. I mean, they are not necessarily the type of defense that will be the run stoppers in the middle. They got Micah Parsons, who's kind of a light player, but he plays with so much speed and so much tenacity that makes up for some of the inability to just stand strong and two gap. Like, they're not going to ask him, this better than me. They're not going to ask him to take on two blockers and hold his ground. They don't have that kind of thick presence in the middle like we have with Derek Nottie and Mike Pennell here in Kansas City. And that's going to hurt them, because as you get later in the season, when the weather starts changing and teams want to run the ball more, you consider this week, they got the Ravens coming in. Ravens 0-2, still with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. That's going to be a tough task for them to have to go up against that running attack with that defensive personnel that they have. So who knows? I don't have any mercy for Dallas Cowboy fans. I love anytime they get whooped. I got a lot of obnoxious Dallas Cowboy fans as family members, so I take every opportunity to talk trash back to them whenever possible.
Well, me and Dana don't have a lot of things in common, him being a wide receiver, me being a linebacker, but our hatred for the Dallas Cowboys and the Raiders is something we share. Me playing for the Redskins at the time and then going and playing for the Eagles. That's a lot of NFC East confrontation with the Dallas Cowboys. It still kind of flows through my blood.
Yep.
But the things we did mention was the high-powered offense by the Saints. We didn't have a chance to mention it, but I think the number 2 offense so far in the season have been the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, wow, yes.
So Murray and Marvin, and
Harrison Jr.
Week 1, he didn't even use Harrison Jr. It's almost a resurgence of James Conner.
Oh, yeah.
Like being able to focus that run game. No one ever thought that I think the Arizona Cardinals would be known as a running football team, but that's what they've been doing. They've been running downhill, smash mouth football, and then they pass it when they want to on their terms, which have led them to be the second highest offense. So
the Cardinals are what the Ravens were hoping to be this year.
Yes.
When they got Derrick Henry, they thought that they could be a run-dominant team and then keep you off balance with the agility and athleticism of Lamar Jackson, and that's what you're seeing with Kyler Murray.
All right, well, hey, we're going to wrap up segment 1 right there. When we come back, segment 2, we're going to give a shout-out to Red Door Grill. I'm going to talk about a little bit of ingredients for success. So you see me sprinkle that salt and pepper. We're going to talk about some injury stuff. We're going to talk about just some things. We'll talk about what needs to be done by all the NFL teams across the league. And we'll talk about the red zone and how to take care of some of the ills we've seen in the red zone. With that, I'll be right back at you. Shawn Barber, 10-year NFL vet. You're listening to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Fellas, it's the best time of year. Football is back, and we're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and that glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where you can take your inner GM and bring it to life by setting that perfect fantasy roster, screaming at the TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone makes fun of in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. And let's be honest, fellas, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp below the waist with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. Join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code KCSports for 20% off plus free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code KCSports at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code KCSports at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
All right, welcome back to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. I'm your boy, Shawn Barber, NFL vet, 10 years here with the Kansas City Chiefs and a number of other teams. That's not important. What's important in segment 2 is that we're going to start talking about some ingredients for success. So I'd like to thank Red Door Grill for their support and their sponsorship with the segment. They're doing a great job. Man, I think it's 6 locations around town. You have a chance, stop by Red Door Grill, get some of those good appetizers, some vittles. Man, they got a lot of things that are going to be like tasty. But when you talk about something that adds some substance, something that's going to stay in your belly, It's gonna sustain you through all 4 quarters of the game. Stop by Red Door Grill, get some wings, get some of those appetizers. But today, because today is September 18th, which is National Cheeseburger Day. Oh, Dana didn't know that. He had no idea. I don't eat cheeseburgers. Again, we're going to talk about that later, his lack of adding anything to burgers. But National Cheeseburger Day, I wanted to take the time to list 2 items off the Red Door Grill menu. And maybe I would ask Dana his opinion about it because but he doesn't eat anything fancy. He's as plain Jane as they come. Yes. One of the things is the sweet cheeses burger they have.
Say that again.
Sweet cheeses. They have a burger called the Sweet Cheeses. It comes in multiple cheeses. They got Swiss, aged cheddar. They got a fritter that comes on there. It has some smoked bacon and a spicy sriracha aioli. Now, think about a burger with all those things, all those different cheeses blended together. It's just just boom, boom, boom. Mouth of explosions, taste out of left field, right field, coming at you all kind of ways. Now, I'm going to tell you, of the burgers, that is my favorite, but they have another one called the blue cheese, spicy blue. It has spicy blue cheese. It has frizzled onions, which I think are a version of fried onions, some shaved lettuce, vine-ripe tomatoes, and then also a Serrano chili aioli. So 2 different types of aioli goes on 2 different types of burgers. Both of them are so darn good, it'll knock your socks off. So I wanted to make sure we featured those 2 different burgers for National Burger Day. Shout out to my man Joshua and everybody over at Red Door Grill. But Dana, we talk about ingredients for success. We feature some burgers. I know you don't like anything but the plain. Well, all right, let's. What do you like on your burger, Dana?
So, they call me blue cheese, right?
Oh my goodness. No, I don't know they call you blue cheese because you're funky.
No.
Stink, toes.
Because I'll be dressing sometimes.
I don't know.
Dressing.
And somewhere he thinks that's funny. Like some parts of his soul felt like that was a joke worth talking about in the process. So there is a process.
There's a process.
Wardrobe. There's wardrobe.
I'm in golf gear today, so
spicy blue cheese. Spicy blue cheese.
But yeah, barbershop. You are correct. I am a very, very, very picky eater. Not the most healthy eater, but I'm very picky. I do have my select items that I get from Red Door Grill, the chicken sandwich, the meatloaf, like I mentioned before, excellent carrots and green beans and sweet potato fries. And yeah, so I get all that. My wife gets the wings. She likes it naked with the sauce on the side. So yeah, we attend the Red Door Grill very, very often. So yeah, I'm a very picky eater. I do eat burgers. I just don't eat cheese.
Well, we talk about ingredients for success beyond Danan's pickiness of not eating anything with cheese or anything with mayonnaise or any sauce on it. Just meat and potatoes kind of guy he is. Some of these teams going to have to be searching for some extra ingredients.
Yeah. Injuries
have been, over the first 2 weeks of the season, obviously we started off week 1 without no T. Higgins, no CMC. Tua gets injured. Love gets injured. Multiple injuries after week 1, and now into week 2. I didn't mention Puka Nacua got hurt.
Yep.
So now Cooper Kupp goes down.
Yep.
Jefferson goes down. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down. A.J. Brown goes down. Deebo Samuels.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of teams, and these teams are contenders.
Yeah.
That are going to be searching in the reserves or on the practice squad, or see how deep that wide receiver room really is when it comes to making plays. How do you, when an injury is this early in the season, and we'll talk about Pacheco and the Chiefs a little bit later, but when you're one of these teams and you have to search, what kind of options do you have? You have the practice squad, you have the free agents, some guys free agents, but that's got to be some different mindsets when it comes to being a team facing an early injury to one of your stars.
Yeah, it's always tough to digest having to replace guys, especially star players on the offensive side. I'm always going to be offense biased.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about offensive guys. I noticed that you mentioned all offense, so I know deep down inside you really appreciate offensive players more
very deep
than defensive players.
Very deep.
But you mentioned a lot of big names and guys that will lose a little bit of time. But I feel like each and every organization, Barbershop will tell you that they prefer the injuries to be this early in the season versus late. And of each of those individuals, whether it's Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, Run CMC, whichever ones, if they are healthy at the end of the season, and whether they squeak into the playoffs or they are a team that has been able to roll without them and they get them back, do you really want to face those teams? I often get asked, and I know I'm sure you do, what do you think of the Chiefs' predictions? And prior to the season, what do you think their record's going to be? And I always say, it doesn't matter if it's 13-4, 14-3, 11-6 like last year. If we are healthy, do you want to play us in January? So I feel like if you ask each of those coaches, each of those offensive coordinators about losing the players, yes, they don't want to get behind the eight ball. You think about the Ravens, 0-2. They haven't really sustained any major injuries, but they're 0-2. They got the Cowboys, they got the Bills. They could conventionally be division. Yeah, within their division. Twice. They can be 0-5 before they know it, and their season could be down the drain. So you don't want to have the injuries that are going to extend a long period of time, but you also want to be smart, where you don't want a player like Deebo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey or Justin Jefferson to come back and then they be only 75% for the rest of the season. You'd rather roll the dice for a couple of 2 extra weeks and then expect them to come back at 95% and hopefully be that the rest of the season than just nursing an injury all the way through. The ingredients to me for success is just being smart. The days of battling through injuries like we grew up in the NFL that we grew up in, where you didn't miss games.
Somebody's going to take my spot.
Yeah, somebody's going to take my spot, and the next thing you know, I'll be, packing groceries somewhere. That's the mindset that was. Nowadays, it's got to be about being calculated and being smart in regards to your approach. I feel like every organization with the training staffs, with the doctors, even with the capologists and the business side, recognize how important it is for them to be smart with injuries. And I know for all of us that are in eliminator pools, survivor pools, or fantasy football, we don't want to hear all that. Like we need Justin Jefferson back on the field. We need Deebo Samuel back on the field. We don't want game time decisions. But from a business standpoint, to me, the number one ingredient that pops out, Shop, is being smart with your guys. And from a player's perspective, for all the listeners and viewers out there, it is a tough pill to digest when all you've done throughout your career from Pop Warner, high school, college, and into the pros is battle through injuries, battle through aches and pains and the bumps and bruises for somebody to come and say, hey, we're going to hold you out when you feel almost invincible, which is there's always a level of invincibility that gets you to this point. Like that's why people are arguing about Tua and what he should do. I guarantee you Tua in his mind, because of how he's gotten to this point, he does not want to leave the football field. We may all think that it doesn't bode well for him and it's not smart because he's a family man and you got to have your brain and faculties for the rest of your life. But in his brain, there's a level of invincibility that says, I can bounce back from this. I can be better than this. I can overcome this, because that's all you do throughout your career, whether it's an ankle injury, a toe injury, or an arm injury. So, yeah, I try not to judge the injuries, but I also recognize from a business standpoint, guys making smart decisions.
Yeah, and that even goes back to the GPS we talked about that gritty attitude, the perseverance, and the sacrifice. No one knows in his lifetime what this young man has actually sacrificed to now be the starting quarterback of one of 32 NFL teams. And not just one, like a team that actually has a bright future, and he has weapons around him. Their quarterbacks like, man, like they would give. I say give it life, but they would give anything almost to be able to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill and Waddle and have the running game Mostert and Etienne, right? So when you get that situation and you now it's like it's all come to fruition. The timing is now, and now you're telling me that my noggin ain't working right. Like something's going on out of my. It's not about my preparation. It's not I feel good. It's just something beyond my control. I have to lay all of that down and make a smart decision.
And also you think about the experience that he had to go through with Brian Flores, and like you mentioned earlier about you were told that there's no other spot in the NFL for you. I wasn't told that directly, but I was told that indirectly because nobody else called me when I was a free agent. And so by default, but now if you add to it with Tua, that there was actually a coach that was in his ear while he was playing saying you're not good enough and planting those seeds in his head. Like, I would not negate him. I would not have any judgment against him if he said, you know what, it's just been instilled in me that I got to battle back. I battle back from that. I battle back from the doubts. I battle back to a point of being a top 5 paid quarterback in the NFL. And I'm going to battle back from this head injury and whatever else comes down the road until I can't do it anymore. That's like, we're a little twisted to play in the NFL and to have the job description that we have. You have to be a sandwich short of a picnic. You got to be a screwdriver short of a toolbox. But that's what you'll see out there. And that's why you get the best of those guys, because they are willing to sacrifice, or we were willing to sacrifice more than what a lot of people would normally do.
All right, so for them ingredients, I guess you got to be smart on and off the field. You got to understand the value of playoff football versus regular season football. Mm-hmm. And then the third ingredient was you got to be a little bit crazy. Yeah, you got to be a little bit special. So, but around the league, man, when we look at the red zone, right, there's been an ingredient from last season is somewhat missing from this season. And when I talk about the red zone success, if you look at 2023, the first 2 weeks of the season, there were 20 teams that were 50% or greater once they got into the red zone of scoring. This year, in the same 2 weeks, there's only 9 teams. So less than half the teams are 50% more of a success rate once they get into the red zone. So it's
touchdown success, not just points.
Yes, touchdown success. So it's only 2. I mean, each play on offense is only 2 ways it goes. Either you offensively didn't execute, or the defense did something to prevent you from executing.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on so far when it comes to this season that less than half the teams are being as successful in the red zone?
So this is a holiday barbershop, because this is what I'm going to say actually something positive about the defense. You know that's very tough for me. I'm going to have to get some Pepto-Bismol afterwards, because I don't speak highly of defenses. It's just ingrained in me. But I will give props to the defenses, and I think it goes to the speed and athleticism and the increased nature of those two components that assist in that stat. The fact that you have faster linebackers, faster safeties, heck, you got faster defensive linemen that disrupt things. And just from the nature of the positioning on the field, once you get into that red zone inside the 20-yard line, field gets restricted. It gets constricted extreme amount, because there are no deep routes. There's no deep pass patterns. Everybody is within a confined space. So now the athleticism and the speed takes over, because that safety, instead of having to deal with a deep third, he's only got to deal with 5 yards as opposed to 40 yards down the field. A deep middle safety only is literally 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage, and he only has to drop 4 or 5 yards, as opposed to dropping 10 and 20 yards like you would see in the middle of the field. So they can be active in every component, whether it's the run game or pass game, to a different extent than they were when the ball was on the 20 coming out, or on the 50-yard line going in. So I'll give credit. To me, I think it's really about the athleticism of the defense and the speed of the defenses. And then also, there are some coaches out there that they're looking at it as, I don't want to come away from this opportunity to put 3 points on the board with 0 points on the board. So you'll see some teams that may go the safe route, kick a field goal, because they'd rather have the 3 points than roll the dice to not have 0 points, or to allow the momentum shift with a turnover.
All right. So you mentioned the offensive play selection might be a little bit
conservative,
more conservative in the past. You mentioned that the smaller field, so no deep safety. So both of those deep safeties now become extra linebackers to shoot gaps. And then more aggressive defensive calls, because you have less to risk, right? Yeah. Like, you don't have to worry about yardage given them. They're already in field goal range. Now we become even more aggressive, because we need to knock them out of field goal range once they get anywhere close to that 30. And then the overall speed has definitely been taking a shift towards the defensive guys. Defensive linemen, you go back to the draft and look at the times, the defensive linemen, the defensive tackles, linebackers. Defensive tackles are running like ends are running like linebackers, and linebackers are running like safety. the evolution of the game on defense is just speed all over the field is starting to really be a detriment to the league as far as the success of offenses once they get into the red zone.
Yeah.
Because that's when you don't have to worry about nobody with the bully ball. You don't have to worry about them running the ball down your throat. Now it's time for the defense to now take the aggressiveness, and maybe that's taken away of some of the opportunities there's been for offenses to really be as successful as they've been in the past.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. All right, so that's segment 2. Obviously, ingredients to success. Again, we want to thank Red Door Grill for their support and everything they do with that segment. So yes, today, like I said, again, National Cheeseburger Day. Go out there and grab yourself a cheeseburger. Drop me a line or a DM. Let me know what you think about it. Who has the best cheeseburgers here in Kansas City? My vote is already on Red Door Grill because they're my sponsor. So I'm going to go with them as a default. So when we come back in the third segment, man, me and Dana's going to chop it up a little bit about week 3 and prepare you for the Kansas City Chiefs making their way to Atlanta, take on the Falcons. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
All right, back at you for segment 3. We're trying to figure out what is going to be needed for the Kansas City Chiefs to go down to Atlanta and take care of the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons came off of a late last second, call it final drive victory against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Man, the Eagles kind of had their way with them for 3 or 3.5, maybe 4 quarters. We saw the game come down to almost one penalty away from the Eagles getting a crucial first down to be able to run out the clock. And then Kirk Cousins and the Falcons take over. 3 plays go down the field. They end up scoring. They end up taking the lead. And then it ends up, I think the end of the game ended up being an interception. Jesse Bates, who we know from days of Cincinnati, a rangy veteran safety, goes over and makes a great play on the ball. That was trying to be force-fed to Devonta Smith in that game. So we have the Falcons coming off of a Monday, a short week for them, which is a positive for the Chiefs. So let me ask Dana. Hey, Dana, going into the game, let's talk about the Chiefs offense versus the Falcons defense. Maybe what are some of the aspects that you already are looking at as you prepare for this game?
So I think as you know, each and every week it's about getting better, and I was always taught, I'm sure you were taught in some semblance, every day you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You can't stay the same. And if we look at the Chiefs and some of the stumbling that they had last week against the Cincinnati Bengals, you look at, okay, how can they get better? I think it's about, okay, who's going to be the playmaker now that Isaiah Pacheco is out? Who's going to be the other playmaker besides Rashee Rice on offense? Who's going to be that other receiver that's going to step up and take some of the pressure off? Because technically, we know differently because we have Travis Kelce, even though he hasn't had the best games in the first 2 weeks, we know that he can break out at a moment's notice. But if you're a defense now, you're looking to say, you know what, without Isaiah Pacheco, we can double team Rashee Rice inside, outside, because he likes to run those crossing routes. And we can focus on Travis Kelce and kind of blend between the two and say, challenge us with somebody else. That's what I would think that the Atlanta Falcons is probably thinking of as well. But I will say this, one of the biggest assets that we have in playing the Atlanta Falcons is that we only play them once every 4 years. And if you look over the course of history with Patrick Mahomes and his 7 seasons, it's been very, very tough. I know people will look back last year at the Detroit Lions and the home opener. We didn't have Travis Kelce, didn't have Chris Jones, but still only lost by 1 point. Dropped passes, interception returns, etc. But if you look over the course of history, Patrick Mahomes has been exceptional against teams that he's only played once that are not familiar with it. From a defensive perspective, it's one thing to study as much film as you do, but until you're on the field and you have to experience those players, that speed, that continuity, the playmaking ability for a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, it is a different breed. You played during the times you played with Donovan McNabb. You played against Donovan McNabb. You played against Peyton Manning. You played against Tom Brady, etc. You can study all the film you want. But once you're in between those lines, it's a different ball game. So I feel like that's the uphill battle that the Atlanta Falcons will have. I'm still trying to figure out how the Atlanta Falcons have 2 consecutive primetime games. Like, what did they do in the past seasons to get them a Monday Night Football game and a Sunday Night Football game against 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago? So I feel like they probably looked at this window of time as their Super Bowls to play against the 2-time defending Super Bowl champ in the Kansas City Chiefs. They've probably been looking for this. So offensively, we can't go down there and sputter. I feel like we got to put our foot on the gas pedal from the beginning, let them know who we are, and have them have to play catch up against us in their home field.
I like the way you're thinking. Obviously, from a shorter version of that, I think Chiefs offense got to focus on 2 things: eliminating the pre-snap penalties, no linemen, the holdings and the jumping off sides and the things that we call them drive killers, right?
Yeah.
So many times I think that I saw in that game, especially when it came down to the fourth quarter against the Bengals, we were making plays. We were making play after play, and it was being called back over and over again because we had a hold call or we had.
Oh, we're trying to say that the refs aren't. They don't favor the Chiefs like everybody thinks.
Well, I know we ain't talking about the Chiefs' defense yet, but somehow our defensive back got called for pass interference as he was getting pulled down.
Yeah.
And then their defensive players chucking us, throwing us all around beyond
through our bodies.
Yeah, beyond 5 yards downfield. And we have to have Travis Kelce and receivers looking at the refs. Hey, that's 33 on the hold.
Yeah.
Number 33 held me. You need to call it. I mean, they needed help on one side trying to make the same calls both ways, but obviously, that's always, I tell my players and flag, don't complain about the refs. Let's go out there and continue to play, be aggressive, play hard. I mean, usually the team that's coached up the best with the fundamentals usually is the less penalized team.
Yeah.
That hasn't shown its face, I think, yet when it comes to our season, because we do kind of get penalized a lot for being a well-coached team. And then also turnovers, like we said. No, even if we go back to last year, yes, we were able to win a Super Bowl, but we didn't turn the ball over in the playoffs. Like we did a whole season.
When it was time,
right? Minus 11 in turnover. But then when it came down to the playoffs, we were able to somehow correct that ship. I think we have to, you got to believe as a coach, it's something that you want to get addressed, and you just want everybody on the team to understand ball security is job security.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of teams that you can give the ball extra possessions to and think that at the end of the ball game, you're going to be able to just come up with some magic plays to come back week after week after week.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see our team just overall, the entire offense, running backs, wide receivers, everybody, even Patrick Mahomes with throwing the turnovers and stuff, just be a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
Let's be a little bit more careful and have a little bit, maybe making ball security a priority.
Yep. I agree.
Overall when it comes to week 3 matchup at the Falcons. And then we talk about the Chiefs defense versus the Falcons offense. I haven't had a chance to break down the Falcons offense. I did watch Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I saw anything that special. Kirk Cousins to me has always struggled in primetime games. I thought he struggled this entire game except for 2 drives. There was 2 drives where he looked like the guy that they went out and paid for. Yep. But the rest of the game, I mean, didn't look mobile, didn't look comfortable. A lot of throws, you would think a quarterback making as much, he could put it in better places.
Yeah.
His players, Mooney and some of the guys just had to go up and make plays, Drake London, Pitts. But their offense did not seem to be a smooth running offense, except for, like I said, for 2 different drives. But let me know, what did you think about the Falcons offense, I guess, overall?
So I thought that they had a healthy blend of run game. When you talk about Bijan Robinson there as a playmaker, and they were committed to the run. As long as the Eagles kept allowing the game to be close, it didn't force the Atlanta Falcons to be one-dimensional until that final drive when they had to drive the field to score a touchdown. To me, a winning recipe going against a team like that is to force them to be one-dimensional. And if they're going to commit to the run, then we got to stop the run and put them in predictable situations to put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands. Kirk Cousins is not the most mobile quarterback. He can be a guy that can be hit and knocked around. He can be disrupted in the pocket. we have to do a better job of being consistent in the face of quarterbacks. Didn't do that necessarily against the Ravens, which nobody will with Lamar Jackson. Could say we could have done a better job against Joe Burrow, even though we got the strip and the scoop and score. But Kirk Cousins is going to be that guy that he's going to be where you see him. He's not going to disappear like Lamar Jackson. So getting around him, and I feel like just not allowing them any kind of spirit. Like after the third quarter, within the third quarter, like I want to see their fans quiet, sitting down, looking at the jumbotron of the game and not cheering, because it's not necessarily that the game is at a hand, but we have such a dominance over the game that they know what we're there for and who we are. So defensively, I don't want to see big chunk plays. If you look at these last two games for the Chiefs, one of the Achilles heels have been giving up those chunk plays, forcing an offense orchestrated by Kirk Cousins to have a 12 to 14 play drives. If you force them to have 12 to 14 play drives consistently throughout the game, not give them any big plays, any big penalties, pass interferences that give them chunk plays, I love our chances. So, yeah, I think Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, you've had two games where you've had to be calculated in your pass rush because of the mobility of Joe Burrow and definitely the mobility of Lamar Jackson. Now you have a more stoic quarterback that you can pin your ears back and get after. And then the linebackers have to come up and make the tackles. We missed a lot of tackles in the open field in the first two games. Those short passing routes to running backs out of the backfield and tight ends. We got to come up and make those tackles and create and love the situations.
And talking about those linebackers, Bolton and Drew Tranquil, the running back that they were trying to tackle last week, I mean, those guys are not even close to as explosive as Bijan is. I mean, Bijan, you miss a tackle in the open field, and it's going to go for big yardage, touchdown yardage. So I think we definitely have to have a kind of a back to fundamentals when it comes to the linebackers. Taking away the grass, taking away, make sure your head is up, you're seeing what you tackle as a pack. Don't leave anybody out on a one-on-one island with Bijan. And then also, when it comes to Bolton and Drew Tranquil, when it's time for them to be matched up against Pitts, when they got to be matched up against an athletic tight end, this league is full of athletic tight ends. And so, for 2 weeks now, we've had tight ends really do some damage on the stat sheet, right? Isaiah Likely in week 1, and then Gesicki in week 2. So we definitely got to shut that tight end position down, not let Pitts get off. Make this team, like you say, make him a one-dimensional team. Yeah. Make Kirk Cousins in prime time beat you using his receiver core, right? He has Mooney, Ray McLeod. He has Drake London. Right? So those three guys, we know they're all talented, but for some reason, man, when it comes time to primetime games, Kirk Cousins trying to be the guy, he just hasn't been it. Yeah. I think he only has a few wins over, illustrious career playing multiple primetime games. More time than not, he just doesn't come up and making the play as a playmaker. I do like to say that over the last few weeks, I have acknowledged and noticed Leo Shenault has been outstanding. Oh, yeah. He's been making plays, doing an awesome job all over the field. Obviously, one of the guys we had coming into the season who we knew was going to have to be a big year for him, McDuffie, has been as expected. Yeah. Lockdown corner all over the field. Some of the surprises I've had, some of the guys I looked at, I wanted to see this safety Hicks. I wanted to see what he's going to be able to do. And I've been pleasantly surprised by him, his maturation and how he's played going into the preseason, seeing him at practice, seeing him up at training camp, and now seeing that being displayed on the field. I mean, he's running fast, he's strong, he's he's all over the field making plays. And then Shamari Connor. Right. So those two guys, not to take anything away from Justin Reed, but we have two young safeties that's actually out there taking advantage of some opportunities in the nickel, like you're saying, taking blitzes and a lot of the disguises and showing the shells and stuff. So maturation and the way those guys are playing beyond those years are something I think is going to continue to make this defense one of the defenses that no one really wants to come see when it comes to, especially at the end of the year. Yep. Overall, defensively, what is one or two maybe keys to victory when it comes to this defense? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we end up the game victorious. So 2 keys to victory when it comes to our defense.
So one, I know when we played, especially for you guys on defense, it was always about winning on third down. And I want to have a little bit of a spin there because I'm not going to use winning on third down. I want to say winning on first down. And winning on first down, to me, opens up the door for the offense to be more predictable. Every time you're able to win on each down, they become more predictable on the next down. If you give up 8 yards on first down, then you're less predictable on second down and definitely less predictable on third down as far as what you're going to do or predict for the offense. But if you win on first down and you give up 1 yard or you get a negative play, now second becomes more predictable, which makes third down even more predictable. So I'm going to spin it to say if we win on first down, on drives, on the road, in what could be possibly a hostile environment, I like our chances. And then flipping the script in regards to the turnover ratio. Like the turnover, I don't get caught up in time of possession. I know there's some people out there that think that that's a recipe for wins and losses. If we are able to throw the ball over the head of a defensive back and Rashee Rice catch it for a touchdown, I'll take that over having the ball for 5 more minutes. I think everybody else would as well. But to me, the turnover ratio, even though it went against the grain last year without success, it normally is directly correlated to wins. If you're able to take the ball away more than you're able to give the ball away, especially on the road, you're going to win more games than you lose. So those 2 things are the 2 things that pop out to me is winning on first down defensively and then the giveaway takeaway. If we're able to get them demoralized that they have to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes more times because we're taking the ball away on defense, that's going to open up them to be more predictable, maybe to be more desperate. They're going to start taking chances downfield, which is where Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, those guys up front can pin their ears back and wreak some havoc on in the backfield of the Falcons.
Man, awesome. Listen, I think I'm a defensive savant in many ways. I think I know a lot about defense, but I got to say I did take a lot of nuggets from you as far as rethinking the third down. You know, everybody wants to be great on third down, but like you said, trying to change it and adjust that to be like, hey, if you're great on first down and good on second down, you're going to be in third and long, and everybody knows you have a much better chance of getting off the field when it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and trying to get off the field and keeping somebody from getting 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. So I like the way you created that. And then like you talk about creating turnovers, right? Don't wait for the offense to give it away. Pressure on the quarterback, speeding up his process, making him get rid of the ball before he's ready. Tip balls at the line of scrimmage because you know he's not a mobile guy. So we know where, the launch point is going to be, where it's going to be very consistently, and putting some onus and putting some, accountability on his D-line and say, hey, guys, if there's ever a chance for you to go eat and there's going to be somebody who's, you don't got to worry about the yards, the scrambling yards and him he's going to be right there for you.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity to kind of lay your ears back and get after it, I think this is the game where we want to see that D-line definitely kind of take over things.
Oh, yeah.
So I can appreciate both of those things. Obviously, from an offensive mind, you must have been listening to years and years of me talking about this in the process.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I was doing.
So if you don't know, me and Danan we have a radio show we do together. It's called Players Only. And if you have opportunity to listen to that, man, find us on the local airways. It's going to start on October. So some Thursday nights around 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. If you're not busy,
a healthy banter.
Yeah. Find me and Danan on Players Only. We kind of chop it up like we do right here. We do it in a little bit different version. Yeah. It's still some of the same flavor and some of the same excitement. So, hey man, listen, I like to tell Danan, man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being on the process, sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge with our listeners. I know all of our fans and the followers will take away some bullet points and some things to make them a better and more educated fan. So we're going to have a energetic, positive Chiefs Kingdom is going to be watching Sunday Night Football in hopes and in waiting for their Kansas City Chiefs to get after the ball, create some turnovers. This offense is going to look great. We're going to have success in the red zone. We're going to show some grit with that GPS, right? Showing that grit, perseverance, and sacrifice. All the things we talked about on the process. And we know that failure sometimes leads to success. We ain't going to take no failure on the ball field when it comes to
in Hotlanta.
So, hey, man, look, with that, man, love it. Thank you for coming and being a part of the show. You've been watching The Process, where the process is greater than what it produces. This is Shawn Barber, 10-year NFL vet, your host, and my man Danan Hughes, and we'll see you next week.